Hello and welcome to the preview on the Fulhamish YouTube channel. My name's Elizabeth Barnard and I'll be your host today. Today, we're hoping to put a difficult result this weekend against Crystal Palace behind us as we travel to Molineux midweek to face Wolves. And I'm delighted to be joined by Dave from Talking Wolves. Dave, how are you doing?
Yeah, all good, thank you. All good. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too, actually. Going back up to Molineux for the first time in a couple of years. So excited about it.
Yeah. No, like midweek away days are always enjoyable. Well, more so if you get the win, but I mean, unfortunately for you, tomorrow, I hope maybe you're not that happy at the end of the game. But no, safe trip up tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll see. I remember a couple of years ago we came up and it was the hottest day of the year. One of the worst experiences ever. I don't know if you were at that game. And they
Probably,
put the flame.
and the flame things in front of the away end. So I think if
Yeah.
you're on the opposite end of the pitch, you can feel those as well. They're so hot, but yeah. Was that we played you the first one of the early games of the season?
Mm,
0-0 was it?
yeah.
Mitrovic missed the
Yeah.
penalty. There we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I got it
It
there.
was.
Yeah,
I'm hoping for a slightly less hostile atmosphere tomorrow
yeah,
in terms of the temperature, at least.
yeah.
Yeah. It would be great, firstly, to hear about Wolves' season so far.
hmm
From the outside, if I'm honest, it's looked at times a little bleak. But obviously, you've had a great result this weekend, and it would be unfair of me not to mention the reverse fixture in
Yeah.
which you spanked us 4-1 at home. So, how's it felt?
Oh, yeah, it's been difficult, really, really tricky, and I think up until maybe even up until Saturday, it just felt like there was a massive weight on our shoulders, and it just felt like a really, really tricky season. Gary O'Neill, of course, lost his job around the November time, and with Gary, he went really well last season. He came in on really short notice. He did a great job. And then it was almost when it got to about February last season, it wasn't really back to January when at the time we were like 7th or 8th in the league. Probably similar sort of position to you guys where you're looking up the table rather than down the table. And he didn't get backed. He had a couple of players out injured. And almost as soon as, because a lot of people had Wolves to go down last season, as soon as we secured Premier League survival, it's like they went on the beach and our form just fell off a cliff. And a lot of people sort of expected that to carry on as almost like a hangover into this season. And maybe it was me being biased towards. I was thinking, no, that's not going to happen. And unfortunately, it did. We got given an atrocious run of fixtures, though. Like
Mm.
we played all the big guys, and then we've only just come back through the sort of reverse side of that now. So yeah, it was difficult, and of course, under Gary O'Neill, it was he could have lost his job. A number of times he held on and held on, and then there were freak results like the result against you guys, where I said it on our channel. I think that flattered us quite a lot. I think we maybe did enough to win, but I think that when you guys went down to 10 men, it certainly helped us
Hmm.
with Anderson getting injured. So that was a freak result, but good result for us nonetheless. But yeah, the style of football wasn't brilliant. Gary O'Neill was throwing his players under the bus, so it was only going to end one way. And Vitor Pereira's coming in, and it seems a lot better. He's a lot more positive. He believes in the players a lot more. He's obviously instilling a lot more confidence in these players. And going back to what I said earlier, just every time you look at the league table, it's when it felt like maybe before Christmas, every time Wolves are dropping points, Ipswich and Leicester, and now obviously West Ham and Everton, who are sort of I say flying, but a lot clearer of us, they were picking up points. Whereas over the last few weeks, it's almost gone the reverse. Saturday, for argument's sake, we beat Bournemouth, which I think surprised a lot of people. And then Ipswich and Leicester lose quite heavily. And now we're 5 points clear of the bottom three. We've got a really favourable running now.
Hmm.
No disrespect to Fulham. I think we could give you a good game, but then we play, with off the top of my head, we've still got Southampton and Ipswich in the next 5 as well. We've got some real favourable fixtures coming up. So for the first time in a long time, it feels like we can breathe a little bit. But obviously, there's still a long way to go. We've still got to play Leicester, Ipswich, Southampton, West Ham, Everton. On paper, nice games, but you can't be giving points to those teams in and around you. So, so far under Vitor Pereira, so good. But yeah, like I said, a long way to go.
Yeah, that's interesting because to be transparent, I thought Wolves would be going down and Ipswich staying up. But after this weekend, I'm starting to feel like you're getting your act together a little bit.
I think a
Ipswich are
lot of
falling
people.
off.
I think a lot of people would probably be in the same boat because I said maybe this time about a month ago, I felt that although we have a better squad for sure, I think we've got a stronger squad than Ipswich. I think they had more fight and sort of confidence and desire to stay in the Premier League, and that's what worried me. But thankfully, over the last few weeks, we've got our act together a little bit. We've beaten Villa at home, obviously beating Bournemouth this weekend. We're still in the FA Cup, which gives us a little bit of hope and maybe something to look forward to, similar to you guys. So, yeah, things are heading, thankfully, for Wolves in the right direction.
Yeah, I would love to talk about your squad, love to talk about the players that are going to be able to hurt Fulham. From my perspective, I don't want to be one-dimensional about it, but from what I've seen of Wolves this season and the reverse fixture, it seems it's all about Matheus Cunha. He's one of my favourite players to watch in the Premier League, obviously not when he's playing Fulham. Do you think, A, Fulham might be able to keep him quiet this midweek? And B, if we are, how possibly are we going to be able to do that?
Well, I think for Wolves, it's pretty much been the Matheus Cunha show this season. I think, without him, we would have been doomed, to be completely honest. I think you look at his numbers this season, are phenomenal. And, you look at big chances created and goal, even if you include last season, goal and assists combined over the last 2 seasons, you're only talking like the elite players in this division that are ahead of him. I don't know. Teams must have a plan going into playing Wolves, but somehow Matheus Cunha just has the brilliance and the quality that he can make something happen out of nothing. There's been a few games. I think the last couple of weeks, ever since he signed his new contract, he's been on it. You can see there's a clear, confidence there again, and almost him saying, "Right, I'm here till the end of the season. I've got to do everything to make sure Wolves stay in the Premier League," which I like. Obviously, he may well move on in the summer, but there were games in and around January where Stamford Bridge is a clear one. I was in the away end there. The whistle blew to kick off, and I just looked at Cunha, and he looked completely disinterested. And I thought this is going to be a long, long evening. And obviously, we went on to lose that game. But I don't know. Just Wolves at the moment, especially under Vitor Pereira, seem to put a lot of physical players almost around Cunha. So they're the ones that, like, say for argument's sake, Fulham will see a couple of these big lads thinking, right, we need to watch him. And it just allows Cunha to just float wherever he wants and pick up the room and make things happen. So, again, I think if you look at the goal against Bournemouth, is a perfect example. If you want something quite recent, ball comes into the area. You've got the new lad, Molineux, who's like 6'3", just stood in the box, occupying these players, and the ball just falls to Cunha, who can put it into the back of the net. So, I think if Wolves have a positive result tomorrow, I'm fairly adamant and fairly certain it's going to be because of something that Matheus Cunha does, whether he puts the ball on a plate for someone or puts it into the back of the net himself. But as a Wolves fan, I'm just appreciating him whilst I can. A lot of Wolves fans are worried about it, but we've had it for many years, and you've probably had the same at Fulham. You're worried maybe about how you're going to replace Mitrovic, or we've had worried about how we're replacing Neves or Jimenez or Jota, and it happens. Although it's quite a tricky process, it does happen over time. But yeah, Cunha's a special player, very, very good talent.
Yeah, that's interesting what you say about him being disinterested at Stamford Bridge. I didn't manage to watch that game, but I remember, was it last season he scored a hat-trick
At Stamford Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, which as a Fulham fan, I obviously loved because I hate Chelsea. And what about the rest of your squad? Are there any injuries that we should know about, or any other threats that we should be super aware of?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting at the moment. I mean, in terms of sort of the shape and stuff, Vitor Pereira is starting with like a back three or back five, depending on how you look at it. 2 holding midfielders, and then pretty much a front three. The middle two, I think that they've been unbelievable for us. João Gomez and Andre, who I'm fairly certain was a player that Fulham were linked with quite strongly, maybe last summer or the year before. They've been fantastic together as a holding midfield pair. One of the interesting things, which I'm intrigued to see how we line up against you guys tomorrow, is that up front, or as a sort of almost a false nine, we played last week a guy called Marshall Manetzi, who had signed from France. He's a Zimbabwean international, and by trade, he's a defensive midfielder, but he was playing as a striker against Bournemouth. And that's sort of going back to what I said about that physicality. He's such an intriguing profile of player, where I think as Fulham defenders, and Marcus Silva might look at it and think, how on earth are you going to defend against someone who's not really a striker, but just quite a big physical unit? And somehow he just keeps finding these crazy pockets of space. And he's probably had, in a Wolves shirt, he's played maybe 120 minutes in 4 or 5 games. And I would say he's had 3 or 4 clear-cut chances that he's created just by being in the just creating these fantastic pockets of space. Unfortunately, he's not put any of those away, so I think there'll be eyes on him to try and score a couple more goals. But obviously, other than Cunha, there's talent across that pitch, but it's just finding that consistency. And unfortunately, Wolves, up until maybe last month, had a lot more bad days than good days, but certainly talent across that pitch. But I think the man who likes to be the centre of attention is definitely Matheus Cunha, and I'm sure that'll be the same again tomorrow.
Yeah, I reckon so, unfortunately. It would be
Mm.
so Fulhamish for your new guy to break his duck against us.
Probably,
Um,
yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll
that
take
feels
it,
like
but yeah.
exactly what will happen. Um, on the flip side, I wanted to ask a bit more positive from a Fulham perspective. How do you think we're going to be able to hurt you guys? What weak links are there in your team?
Well, up until the last few weeks, defending set pieces for us was just a major problem. Under Gary O'Neill, we conceded a ridiculous amount. I think we before Vitor had come in, I'm sure we'd conceded about 17 set pieces in about 19 games, which was just it was an absolutely awful record under Gary O'Neill. It seems to have improved a little bit, but there are times where Wolves can overplay it a little bit, and I think if Fulham press, I think they could cause Wolves a couple of problems with that. Even against Bournemouth, we were quite sloppy, and yeah, I felt their set piece delivery, Bournemouth, was atrocious, and they could have really hurt us, I think, with the amount of chances they had in wide areas and from set pieces. So we did get away with that. But yeah, I think at times Wolves can just overplay it. So Fulham have got that high press. I think they may well catch us out. I'm intrigued because we haven't really had the pleasure of having too many home games just yet under
Mhm.
Vitor Pereira. So, this one under the lights at home, I am interested to see what changes because of course he's a clever manager, but he's going into games like we had a game against Liverpool a couple of weeks ago, and he said I want to attack. I don't want to just park the bus and defend, And so if we're at home, I want to see how we approach that. I felt against Arsenal, who we lost out narrowly to. It ended up 10 versus 10. There were 2 red cards, but that was again a solid enough performance. So defensively, we've improved a lot, but there are times, like I said, where we can be sloppy and overplay, and that's maybe where Fulham can catch us out.
Yeah, the set piece thing is definitely interesting because Fulham haven't been amazing from set pieces this season, to be honest,
Mm,
especially from corners. But having said that, Emile Smith-Rowe looks like he's going to be injured for this game, which means
mhm.
we'll be playing our backup 10, who's Andreas Pereira, who, for all his faults, of which there are
Set
many,
piece specialist, yeah.
yeah, is a really good set piece taker. So we'll see. That's good. That is something we can hold on to at least.
Yeah, like I said,
And through
we seem to have improved a little bit on them, but like I said, Bournemouth, when they had 10 men on Saturday, you feel like sometimes the only way you're going to make a breakthrough is from set pieces, and like I said, they could have really panicked us from those, and their deliveries were awful. So I think if Pereira plays, for argument's sake, he might be one of those days for him possibly.
yeah. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. And obviously, I wanted to talk about 2 Fulham players that are very dear to Wolves fans' hearts. Well, maybe one more than the other: Raul Jimenez and Adama Traore. Have you
Mhm.
seen any of them this season or since they've moved to Fulham? What are your feelings about them being on the pitch against you guys
It's
tomorrow
good.
night?
It's going to be a strange one because I think. Obviously, we've played against both of them since they've moved on. I think Adama came on in the game at Molineux last year, which we ended up winning, and he came on
Hmm.
and he looked a little bit of a bright spark. I'm sure he had a shot from range, which really caused us a bit of a problem. I think they're both really well liked players at Molineux. I think there were a lot of Wolves fans. We love Raul. His record. He's still our top goal scorer in the Premier League. He's a fantastic player, and I think it was a shame. I think he was really upset that he had to move on, but Lopetegui sort of made it a difficult decision for him, and I'm just glad that he's scoring goals again. Like you said on our preview, I know he had a bit of a tricky start at Craven Cottage, but seems to be scoring goals again and starting to look a little bit more like the Raul Jimenez of old. And from my conversation earlier as well, it looks like you've got the same version of Adama Traore that we had. But again, on his day, Adama can be one of the most unique and exciting footballers, in world football. But unfortunately, those days are quite rare. But yeah, both players that, look, they're not going to get jeered, I don't think, tomorrow at Molineux. They'll probably have a little bit of a cheer when the team lineups are shouted out at the start of the game. But yeah, for Wolves fans, from a Wolves fans' opinion, I just hope they have a quiet evening tomorrow. But obviously, I wish them all the best for the rest of the season.
Yeah, no, I get that. And it would be great to get a score prediction from you for tomorrow night as well.
Yeah, I think after our win against Bournemouth, there's a lot of confidence going into this game. And look, I know Fulham have been very good this season. I'm hoping we catch you on a bad day. Our form against Fulham at Molineux is very, very good as well. So I've got to back Wolves, and I'm going to go with a 2-1 win. But like I said to you earlier, Elizabeth, I think it could be one of those results where it's 2-1 either way. I think it'll be a close game. I don't think it won't be a 4-1 match again anyway.
Yeah. Well, at least I'm hoping. Or 4-1 the other way around would also be fine, obviously. Quite a lot of Fulham fans will be travelling up to Wolves, obviously on Tuesday. Where should we go? What should we see? Obviously, it's a midweek, so it's a little bit different to a whole Saturday.
Yeah.
But where should we eat, drink, check out in the couple of hours we have before the game?
Oh, so Molineux, I think, is one of the most tricky grounds for away fans. And I think we have, I saw a stat the other day, we had the second most pubs in the close proximity to the ground in the Premier League. And I'm sure only one of them is for away fans. And I for Fulham fans, I would clarify this because I heard a rumour it wasn't accepting away fans, but it's not too far away from the train station. It's called the Blue Brick, the pub. So it's about 2-minute walk from the train station and then a 5-minute walk from Molineux. So the Blue Brick pub is probably the place to go. In terms of sightseeing, there's not a lot that I would recommend around Wolverhampton city centre, to be completely honest. But, as in most places, if you want to go in towards the city centre, you've got fast food places and there's a few nice little pub, sort of restaurant chains that might let you in there as well. But in terms of if you want to go for a drink, like I said, clarify this, but the Blue Brick, which isn't too far away from the train station.
It is great to have clarity on that because the last thing you want to be doing is trying to,
I heard someone mentioned it the other day, but then I heard a rumor at the start of the season that they stopped allowing it. But I can't see that. I'm sure that for a midweek fixture, I'm sure they'll let you guys in. But please do check that first.
Yeah, amazing. That's good to know. Thank you. And where can people find you, Dave?
We're at Talking Wolves everywhere, on obviously social medias and on the YouTube, where we did a preview as well with Elizabeth, and then I'm at Dave as a Pardy on Twitter and all the other socials.
Amazing. Thank you. I'll link those down below. And thank you so much for speaking to me today and for doing this preview with me.
My pleasure. Now have a safe trip tomorrow. And although, like I said to you earlier, enjoy the rest of the season, but apart from tomorrow evening anyway.
Yeah, thank you. And you guys too, of course. And thank you so much for watching. We'll be back very soon on the YouTube channel with a quick take after the Wolves game, hopefully celebrating a return to good form for Fulham. In the meantime, come on you Whites. And one final thing, we're doing a Fulhamish live show in March, on the 16th of March, just after the Spurs game. A link to tickets will be in the description. Make sure you snap those up before they're gone.